Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. My name is Lee Carlton. I'm the marketing director at Think Global School. And we've been around for about 10 years now, and we're the world's only traveling high school. So I'm going to introduce you now to Russell Cayley. He's our CM2 principal, and he's going to be giving a talk on the power of place and how you can utilize that. So I'm going to hand you over to Russ now.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining this presentation. It's great to be with you. Yeah, and I hope the presentation will be about 25 minutes, and then we'll field some questions. And yeah, we just want to really open up TGS to this audience, talk a little bit about who we are, what we do, and yeah, and give you some media that we've collected from around the world to kind of bring this present to life a little bit. So Lee, if we could get to the presentation. Okay, so the title of our presentation is basically around the power of place, how place can transform student learning. That won't be the only focus of the presentation, but that'll be a large component of it. Myself as the speaker today, I've been with TGS around 8 years. I was a history teacher, I was then Dean of Students, and I've been one of the principals for three or 4 years now. We report straight to the TGS board, and there's 2 cohorts that travel around the world. TGS has 2 cohorts of approximately 30 students. So let's give everyone an overview of who we are and what we do. TGS is the world's first traveling high school. We have students from grades 10, 11, and 12. Students can enroll in grades 10 and 11, but not 12. So a student's experience of TGS will be either 2 years or 3 years. And I guess the attraction of TGS is that we would say we're non-traditional in regarding how we learn, and we study around place, and teaching and learning is around project-based learning. So students learn through projects, and I'll say some more about this, and the students through a video will say some more about this as we push through the presentation. So this is where we travel. This is where we go around the world. So these are our countries. As you can see, a wide variety, and it's worth pointing out that we always end in Greece. So we always bring the 2 cohorts together for a whole community term in term 4 in Athens, and you can see the countries there that we travel to. So if you join TGS on the first cycle, there's 3 cycles of countries. It's Botswana, India, Japan, and then Greece. Cycle 2 is China, Oman, and Panama. And then cycle 3 is Bosnia, Australia, and Chile. And again, all ending in Greece. So that's our kind of, there are global locations. They can change as well. Range of factors can influence change, but we've tried to kind of cement those countries, so we get to know more people in those locations, we get to know our vendors, we get some familiarity. And this, I'm guessing many people who are tuning into this talk are educators. You'll be familiar with this. This is our mission statement. And I think for me, being one of the principals, and we've tried to be really, we've tried to not have the mission statement just exist and be in a pamphlet or a brochure. We actually really try and teach the mission statement and make the students really aware of it. And what jumps out at me from our mission statement is we really are encouraging our students to be compassionate and curious. So that there's kind of 2 terms that jump out to me about our mission statement. That meaningful change, that can exist in a range of ways. Students from all around the world, I'll say a bit more about this as we go through the presentation. They'll go back home, or they'll go to home locations, or they'll move away from university. So meaningful change can happen anywhere. And I think we as an institution have to be very open about what meaningful change looks like. And this is our student body. As you can see, huge range of countries where our students come from. We do have cycles of countries where applications will rise and fall in certain years. So 2 years ago, for example, we had a very heavy application pull from Europe. Last year, we had a very heavy pull from Mexico and India. And then this year, we've seen bigger pulls from places like Egypt and Brazil. So applications can run in a cycle, but we do get a huge variety every year. A lot of this is through advertising, through word of mouth, like most international schools. As you can see at the bottom there, 57 students from 28 countries. So I'm guessing this is really why a lot of people have tuned in today, to look at the teaching and learning and how TGS does this potentially slightly differently from maybe what we're familiar to. So our curriculum is called the Changemaker curriculum, and these are the 4 points. And I really believe that these 4 points can be taken from any educational institution and inserted into the syllabus or curriculum. So we really push student autonomy, the desire to be self-directed, purpose. I'll talk a little bit more about this later on in regards to passion projects, which the students do. Mastery. Some of you who are familiar with Bloom's taxonomy will already maybe be thinking, oh, okay, well, how does that fit in? And that does fit in because our students don't really deal with grades at TGS. We grade based on novice, specialist, and mastery. And then student agency. So we're really pushing this ideology of ownership of their own work, owner of their prototypes, the ideations, you know, what they come up with through a project. So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into some of these. Students design a range of projects at Think Global schools. These can look very differently. So when a student first comes to us, we will be quite heavy on the teacher-led projects. These will be team taught by 2 educators. We actually rarely use the term teachers at TGS. So educators will deliver teacher-led modules, and the students can be very flexible within that model. Students can their summative and formative assessments can develop very differently, but these projects act as a scaffold to really build the students' skills in PBL. And then as they move into more personal projects, we kind of, cut the reins, so to speak. We let them go themselves, and they begin to more fluidly design their own projects. Each project has a driving question. At the end of the presentation, I'll show you a couple of examples of driving questions. Teacher-led modules, there'll be 1 a term. So obviously there's 4 terms at TGS, so a student will lead each year doing 4 teacher-led modules. Personal projects can vary per student. So a student might, for example, pick 4 or 5 small personal projects. Another student might pick 1 large 2 or 3 term personal project. That is completely up to the students and their advisor. The advisor will guide the students regarding what they see and their abilities and how they're doing within the teacher-led module, which will give us some data on the students' performance, and then we'll help the students regarding their personal projects. And again, really the personal projects can be whatever the student wants and desires. It's their learning, they're in control. The students will also embed some 21st century skills, which most people, I'm sure on the call, are aware of. And as they move through projects, they're moving through Bloom's taxonomy. So they're going from novice to specialist and then on to mastery. And as educators, I think a big part of our role within the school is really providing that bridge from each of those skills. So what does the bridge from novice to specialist look like in a student's project? So why have we picked that? Well, really the TGS abandoning grades and going more towards skill mastery, and then that lends itself into the more mastery projects. And the mastery projects, I'll just say a little bit about this first. This is the final project a student will do at TGS. So really, once the teacher-led modules are complete, the personal projects are complete, the students will pick a much more substantial almost thesis-like projects, a passion project that they will conduct. And the kind of caveat with this is the skills, the outcomes need to be more substantially based in and around mastery. And the mastery project allows a deep dive into a singular issue. Also mastery, a lot of people ask educators at TGS, well, okay, well, what does mastery look like? Well, it can look at various ways, but it should be, two easy answers to this would be an original piece or the ability to teach and instruct what the student has done within the mastery project. And it can also offer a service component as well, the mastery project. So you can also give something back through the mastery project. So just to break that down a little bit, the projects, whether they be teacher-based, teacher-led projects, personal projects, or mastery projects, can all have skill mastery within them. So there would be roughly 6 to 8 learning targets with each project. That's not an exact science, but that's roughly. And the students might 3 at the end of that project, 3 might be at novice level, 4 might be a specialist, and 1 might be a mastery. And then as you move obviously through grade 10, grade 11 and 12, the idea is more of those learning targets should be completed at specialist and mastery level, because obviously the students are getting better as they move through the process. Closing down with the mastery project, the passion project, where we look for a greater quantity of mastery within that project. So in addition to personal projects, teacher-led projects and the mastery project, students at Think Global School will also conduct service learning. This is about giving back to the community. This can happen within term, so it could happen within India, it could happen within China, but a higher weighting of this will most likely happen when the students go home to their home countries. And obviously, we all know what's going on in the world right now. Students are at home at TGS. We are conducting virtual learning up until Christmas, so the students can get involved in a range of projects at home. We can have a conversation with their parents about that, what that looks like. We obviously, have a greater level of conversation with the student about that. And the students give back through service. And again, they can build an actual service project around giving back as well. So they're credited with the learning targets through the service project. So through the spine of TGS, we are a school that pushes, and I know we travel, and at the end of this presentation, I'll talk a little bit about how any school anywhere in the world can use what TGS is doing. I know we're a traveling school, I know we're unique, but I think a lot of what we do can be taken and done anywhere. So place-based learning is through everything we do. Project-based learning is the central pillar of the Changemaker program. And we've also built a social emotional learning course at Think Global School, which deals with mental health, mental wellness, physical health, sexual health, financial health. So that's our own course that we teach the students all through their time at Think Global School. I've said a little about this already, this idea local to global, or you can even reverse that, global to local, because the students are obviously going global when they travel at TGS. And we do have a lot of students who will take the skills they've learned at TGS back to their home nations and try and improve some of these things, the ecological, the political, the economic. We've got students from Ecuador, we've got students from Bhutan, students from India, who have all really been passionate about going home and trying to make a difference. We conduct a lot of workshops when they first enter TGS about empathy being the driving, or one of the driving first steps to project-based learning. Who are you designing and prototyping for? Have you interviewed these people? Have you talked to these people? are you giving them what they want or what you think they want? So that empathy development is huge, I think, global school. And we're constantly telling our educators and students that learning can happen anytime, anywhere. And that just underpins one of the founders' pillars that, you know, we have to get out of the classroom whenever we can. Regarding project-based learning, the last slide, obviously, just going back one, was obviously place-based. Is that one of those three central pillars? Central pillar, project-based learning. When we decided to take on the Changemaker program 3 years ago, we kind of abandoned all silo teaching. You know, we very rarely teach in a silo, like a history class. All of our teaching is, or the high majority of our teaching is cross-curricular, interdisciplinary. And I just want to pull out two, obviously you can all see the graph. Two of these jump out at me. I think giving students, I know we talk a lot about this, but it looks very different per school. But what I've seen in the Changemaker program is the power of student voice and student choice. If you give students genuine choice and voice, the products that they will produce will be transformational. I mean, I can hardly believe some of the outcomes that we've seen in the last 3 years, the outcomes and what the students actually produce when we as the educators guide them, mentor them, but kind of get out of their way at some point as well, and actually let them design themselves and fail themselves. A lot of the prototypes the students will design will sink. You know, in Oman, they literally sank. They were designing model boats that had to have certain specifications. So you'd actually see your product sink. But the idea is that failure is part of life, and failure is part of what we as adults will go through. And it's wrong not to have that in the process. And the students always bounce back. The resilience is very much there, I'm sure, at your schools, and it's there at TGS. And the other one that jumps out at me just to focus on in this brief presentation is reflection. I think that's a term that's been, you know, thrown around a lot the last 5 years, but I would really suggest we teach this. You know, how do you reflect? You know, rather than just say, you know, go away and reflect. Actually, there is some great resources out there to actually teach students how to reflect. You know, is this going to be a journal? You know, is this going to be a group meeting after a module? Well, okay, well, what questions will go into that reflection? How will the questioning look? Will it be the teacher leading the reflection, or will it be the students leading the reflection, or a combination of both? So I would say those are the two kind of panels that jump out of me. Give the students genuine voice and choice, and really genuinely reflect on their experiences. The others are all important as well, but they're the two that jump out at me. And here's a little video so you can meet some of the TGS students, and not just hear from me, from them about what actually project-based learning is and the experience at the Global School.
I'm from India.
I'm from Thailand. From Brazil.
I'm Nadine, I'm from Israel. I'm Charlotte, I'm from the US. I'm from Kosovo.
India.
I'm from Morocco.
Personal projects is just anything you're passionate about, literally, from photography, videography, music, dance, history, anything you're passionate about, that could be a personal project.
Projects that are driven by the students, it's supposed to be something that you're really interested about and something you want to investigate further. It can be absolutely anything in the world, something new you want to learn, a new skill you want to develop.
The possibility of learning whatever you want and however you want.
That I get to choose everything, because I really like to choose my own projects, because I feel like I can plan out the time myself and I can make all the decisions, and I feel like they're more fulfilling because you have no one telling you what to do. I would say the autonomy it gives the student, being able to really self-direct your learning and choose exactly what you're passionate about.
I decided to immerse into music production simply because it gives me the freedom to actually produce what my ear enjoys to listen, to be more in control of the music I listen to.
I mean, one of my favorite projects that I'm working on right now is a song translation. So this is for my Japanese, basically where I'm translating songs from English and Japanese, highlighting grammar structures. I mean, it's sort of an excuse for me to listen to music, but I don't know, I really enjoy it.
I made a podcast, and it's mainly on social justice issues and informing people on topics that aren't talked about that much.
The tea making one, which is just like, it's just something that like, it's not really something you'd learn in traditional school. Like maybe you learn a little bit about like, cooking and like basic stuff, but like making Thai tea is kind of like, something I've never really done, gonna learn like when I'm here.
That you don't have to go big, and that you should explore what you're interested in rather than what you think you should do.
Have a good middle ground, I guess. Like don't do nothing at all, but also don't go too ham about it. Don't make everything a personal project, because then nothing will get done.
That I would have to like create and like manage the whole project by my own.
Reach out for feedback and for help from people around you, from your, classmates, because even if people don't know what your project is about, there can always be feedback that you can take from other perspectives.
Think about all the things that you've ever wanted to do, like all the crazy stuff, and do them as personal projects. Like I've always wanted to learn how to fix cars. That's gonna be my next personal project.
I also think it's really important, especially at the beginning, to try and focus more on something that is like doable and would give you like a physical product or like some skill rather than a lot of content, because I feel like learning and research is a skill that is harder to develop.
And don't overestimate yourself. Don't think that I can do this in like 2 weeks when it actually might take a month. So just have a realistic timeline.
So that's some of our students talking about the personal projects. Obviously, a lot of that was based around place, and you can just hear from the students as well. Those projects ranged in topics and length and durability. So yeah, I think that's some genuine feedback to what we do at TGS. I mentioned this component a while back, this idea of social emotional learning. This is our own program, and I think it's worth saying as well, it's really important for this program, probably like in your own schools right now, to be able to pivot. A lot of our students are going through quite a hard time right now, lockdown, quarantine. They're not able to do, a lot of our students are missing out on seeing their friends, experiences. So this has had to, this social emotional learning component has had to pivot quite drastically for these COVID times. But in more normal times, you can see that it's based around social emotional learning, mindfulness, mind-body connection, and character education. We also have thrown in some financial literacy in there as well. Students are really keen to learn more about finance. So here, I mentioned this at the start of the presentation. Here's some examples for you of what TGS has done. These are teacher-led modules, not student-led modules. So these are what we have built for the students. And as I said before, they do one of these modules per term. So you can see Pabi at the back there looking very inquisitive. And this was a module in China called The Journey Home. And you can see there all projects have a driving question. The driving question for this module. And I would say if you are thinking about starting project-based learning within your own schools, teach this skill. When we launched project-based learning, these were actual workshops for our staff where we actually spent quite a few hours actually learning about what do good driving questions look like, what should good driving questions be, and what should, and what are bad driving questions. So the fact that driving questions shouldn't be yes or no, they should be quite broad in how they could be answered and give the students a lot of room to maneuver. So as you can see here on this China module, it was how can we make untold stories behind mass migration matter? So there's also room for interpretation there from the students. There's a lot of guest speakers, there's a lot of meeting local peoples within these modules. There's a lot of getting out of the classroom as well. And as you can see on the left, we at TGS have 9 families of learning targets. There's roughly 100. In your own school, your learning targets, if you are teaching project-based learning or your skills, it will look different to how TGS learning targets look, but that doesn't mean you can't include them within the teaching and learning. So again, when we built the Changemaker curriculum, one of the first steps we actually conducted was selecting our learning targets. So actually it was almost step 1 or 2 that we actually decided, okay, well, what are our 100? We didn't think there were going to be 100 at the outset, but that's where we landed, and they can be based within 9 families. Now, if you think every teacher-led module, there's roughly around 8 learning targets, and the students are doing, 4 a year, you can see that actually 100 sounds a lot, but it's actually not. It's not that overwhelming. And the students are doing other courses where they're collecting learning targets all the time. Their personal projects are collating learning targets. And here's another example for you all. This one was in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and this was looking at how can we convey the complexities of ethnic and religious reconciliation through our experiences of Bosnia and Herzegovina. So this was actually looking at our own experiences. It's meeting people, meeting local school children, meeting other educators, meeting local professionals, and it was using those experiences to kind of collate a view of conveying a message. And as you can see on the left, we took learning targets around creativity, communication, global awareness, information literacy, teaming and collaboration, and more sociological one at the bottom there, people and cultures. So I think this is really why maybe a lot of people have tuned into the talk. Okay, that's great, but how can we actually make this relevant for my school in my location? So what we've done here is we've kind of put 5 tips out. We've laid 5 tips out for any school to I guess take what we've done at TGS and kind of run with it. And these 5 tips are, as I said before in the presentation, let your students take the lead, give them true autonomy, teach them how to build their own driving questions. That will give them the power then to build modules. Don't limit the topics. Let the students, explore controversial topics. Don't kind of pigeonhole them into set topics that maybe we as educators would want to do. Have them integrate the 21st century learning skills. And again, as I said before, really teach them how to reflect and reflect with them as well. So any student anywhere in the world, in any classroom, can take the lead in their learning. This is maybe a harder one for us as educators than the students. The learning around project-based learning should be messy. It's not linear. It will go backwards and forwards, down and up. Failure are teachable moments at TGS. We do celebrate the failures as well as the successes. I think it's worth highlighting the 4th bullet point there. There is a lot of group work. There's a lot of teaming. There's a lot of collaboration at TGS. Doesn't mean you can't do individual topics and projects. You can, but the students will work in groups quite a bit. And that's, again, that is for a lot of us in life, that is a norm. Most of us as educators work in groups. Most disciplines in most job markets will work in groups or have to work in groups and learn these skills of communication and collaboration. So tip 2, really important one, learning should be messy. Leveraging your environment. This is actually Isabella from Mexico, learning about Mexico. I think she was in Panama there, but her actual personal project is in Mexico with indigenous groups. So she has taken learning that we've done in places like India and Panama with indigenous groups, and she's taken that learning back to Mexico and she's making a documentary about indigenous peoples in and around Mexico. So that's kind of bringing that to life, what I said before, that global to local or local to global. In and around your own environments, again, you know, who are the experts in and around your local environment? Who are people you could be safely able to work with? You know, discuss this with your heads of the departments, your principals. You know, can we spend more time out in the classroom? If we can, what does that look like? Where can we go safely? Where can we explore? Who can we meet? Okay, and tip 4. I think there's a big discussion right now in the education ecosystem about grading. Post-COVID, we abandoned grading as a central pillar a long time ago, and I definitely think there was some curious eyes cast on us when we did that, but I think now that debate is definitely heightened, and I've got to say, I don't miss being chained to grading systems. Teaching through Bloom's taxonomy, novice, specialist, and mastery, I find, and I am sure the educators at Think Global School can reinforce this, far more fulfilling. Because again, when you start out at a skill, you know, any of us on this call now, if we started out a skill, let's say we go off and learn, I don't know, archery, you know, we wouldn't be an F or a D or an E. We would start out as a novice. You know, and that's a whole different connotation around it than saying, hey, you've just started this course and your work isn't so great and you're getting Fs. Well, no, that's actually not. That's actually very much constructed. What we tend to find is we are novice at things and skills that we're not so great at, or we've just started. You know, any of us who have mastered a skill on this call had to go through this process. We all started novice at some point. So I find this scale of progression through projects and through different disciplines far more dynamic. You know, students can be mastering one area, be teaching other students. We had a group of students teaching French once, completely skilled at this, definitely showing mastery potential. But yet in other areas, students might be novice. So that can be quite a dynamic scale, you know. And tip 5, impart 21st century skills. 21st century skills are inbuilt within all our projects. We encourage students to bed them in. And again, these are well defined throughout global education now. I'm sure we're all aware of them. So yeah, we teach the students what 21st century skills are, why we want to include them, and then they become part of our life at Think Global School. So 21st century skills embedded into projects. Just leave that up a few seconds. Okay, and thanks very much. Thanks for listening. I hope we've shared a few things that we do at Think Global School, and especially that last section. I think that last section for most people on the call is the most important. You know, how can I take this home and use it? I think those 5 tips. I'm sure Lee and I can send out those tips to people. Or again, if you want to get in touch with us about any, I know there's a Q&A session in a second, but if you want to get in touch with us about any of that, please reach out. Lee, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna pull myself up real quick. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask us. The one that has gotten quite a few likes, Russ, is how is our school doing under the current circumstances, which makes a lot of sense since most people expect us to be traveling. So I'm going to pull Russ up so we can see him.
Yeah, that's a great question. I've actually been doing a lot of work in consultation about this. We've moved virtual, I think, very successfully. The bedrock behind good virtual learning, I'm convinced of, is having a good learning management platform. We use something called HeadRush. This is where the students build their projects, the educators have access to this, the students have access to this, and it allows us to project manage step by step. If you don't have that project management system in the virtual world, it's very hard to know what your students are doing and not doing. So I would say we're doing pretty well at TGS. Project-based learning is also nice because your touch points are a lot less. So I know I'm from the UK. Students who are 16 are usually doing 10, 12, 13 GCSE courses. You know, that doesn't necessarily, you're not necessarily able to pick that up and put that into the virtual world. That's a lot of teachers needing your time. That's a lot of emails. Talking to other principals, one of the initial problems back in the early parts of the kind of COVID crisis was students were just overwhelmed with emails. PBL doesn't demand that because you're doing one project that's multidisciplinary and you've got 2 educators at TGS. So therefore you're not getting bombarded with emails and with, you know, 11 different teachers after you for 11 different pieces of work. So we're doing well, and I think project-based learning is definitely a better fit for the virtual world and for virtual teaching spaces. We also have advisors. This is really important in virtual learning as well, who are constantly, each student has an advisor. Each advisor has roughly 5 students that they look after. This might not be your educator. So again, you've got someone else to talk to, and there's that social support that's provided by TGS in the virtual world. So, and that's still strong. You know, that's still a really core component. So yeah, so we've done pretty well with moving virtually, but I would say the big tip from me is have a platform where you're managing projects from. That could be a paid platform, or it could be a free platform. You know, something like Trello could do the job as well in regards to managing projects. But you have to, I think you have to manage what they're doing online, and having that system is essential.
So it looks like we have another question, Russ. It's how many students, staff do we have at our school?
Each cohort 30, and we were a much bigger school. We did travel around with more students, but it was too much. Our footprint was too big, and so each cohort, and there's 2 cohorts, has 30 students, and we have 11 staff. So the ratio is high in regards to staff to student ratio. And if we expand one day, if that's down the road, we're not sure, but right now it's 2 cohorts. 30 students. We have 7 educators, myself as principal, and we have a logistics director, we have a media specialist, and we have a school counselor. And that school counselor is imperative in the model as well when we travel, because obviously 16, 17-year-old traveling, there's a lot of ups and downs. So that role is really important for us as an institution.
And it looks like we have one more question. How many countries do the students visit over a period of 3 years, and is it fixed?
Right now, yes, it is fixed. So it's 4 countries per year. We always end in Greece. That's where we bring the community together. So if you were at TGS for 3 years, then you would visit 10 countries, basically 9, and then Greece you would go back to 3 times. If you were at TGS for 2 years, it would be 7. And fixed, yeah, like I said on the presentation, we have to respond to social unrest. We have to respond to the world as it is right now. So it is fixed as much as we can hope it is, but the world is very up and down right now. So we might have to pivot with some of our countries. But we're trying to stay fixed as much as possible. But that's a really good question.
I think a good example of that is Chile. You know, this past spring, our students were supposed to be there for, you know, a total of 8 weeks, but, you know, there was riots in Santiago, you know, before they were supposed to get there. So, you know, we still progressed with the term. We went to Patagonia and everything worked out. But, you know, the world, it can be volatile, as Russ said. So, you know, things are subject to change. So let me see if we have any more questions. We have one here. Which qualification do you use? IB was the question.
We're accredited by WASC, and the transcript is accredited by them, and they've been incredible with us, supporting us on this journey through the Changemaker program. We were an IB school when we started out, and we were a very successful IB school for what, 5-6 years. But to be honest, the IB and the testing did not fulfill our mission. So we made that decision to leave the IB and move into our own Changemaker program, which is fully accredited by WASC. So yeah, so the TGS qualification comes with support from WASC. And yeah, well, what we found with the more traditional model, the students, the testing, they were not seeing the places we were going. They were kind of in their rooms revising, you know, and that just isn't the educational model we believe in anymore. So the move to project-based learning, fully supported by WASC, and they approve our transcripts. One
thing I like to add on to that is, you know, one of the main questions we get a lot of the time is, you know, do your students go to university? You know, that's, a lot of people think the IB is a gateway to university, but we have a 98% university attendance rate after Think Global School, and that has maintained from IB to Changemaker. So it really hasn't had any effect on our students going to university. They pretty much all have gone. So,
yeah.
Let's see here. And then another one is, how are you continuing in this pandemic situation, which is pretty similar to, you know, the one that we had before.
Yeah, we're hoping to travel maybe January, but then maybe not. So we're trying to stay kind of 2 months ahead and make our decisions 2 months ahead of time. Which I'm sure everyone on the call regarding, you know, either working in a school or leading in a school, are trying to make them hard decisions. You know, when do we open? How do we open? What does that look like? And we're exactly the same. You know, so we're trying to make decisions on travel 2 months in advance. We're not traveling till Christmas. We're hopeful for January, but if that doesn't happen, then we'll focus on Greece in April. But yeah, it's tough. It's really tough because, you know, a month is a lifetime in these COVID times, and things are changing so quickly. Countries are opening up, then they're closing down, and then there's different regulations for each country. So it's tricky. It's really tricky, but we're hopeful soonish we'll be back on the road.
Got another one here. This is a good one. Do all the students of different grades travel to the same country together?
Oh, that's a good question. So each cohort is made up of grade 10, 11, and 12, and that's dynamic. That can change because modules are multi-grade. So you could have in a teach-led module 3 students from grade 10, 3 from 11, and 3 from 12. So we very rarely teach in grades. There are some stuff we need to teach in grades, like university prep, and we call that Think Beyond. Our Think Beyond course, where students are either prepping for university or just life after TGS, which might not be university. So a lot of our teaching is multi-grade, and each cohort will have a makeup of grade 10, 11, and 12, and that will be very different. And there's no set rule that, you know, each cohort will have those 3 grades and have different numbers in the grades.
So it looks like that's it on the questions. I think we're pretty close to wrapping up here. I'm going to play a video from our sponsors to close things out. So yeah, we'd really like to thank everyone for participating. And, you know, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them our way. You know, just visit our website and you can easily get in touch with us. So yeah, thanks again. Thanks for us for, you know, kind of leading us through all this. So
yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for joining us. Cheers.
Hello. My name is Vikas Pota. The reason why we're organizing this global showcase for World Education Week is we believe that schools have incredible expertise in making sure that learning outcomes improve. Given the state of the world, we want to see the expertise from this particular school being replicated in schools all over our planet so that the world becomes better for everyone. That is why I congratulate this school for what it does, and hope that those listening can take away conclusions as to how they should actually approach their own improvement journeys. Thank you all for participating, and I look forward to seeing you in many of the other events this coming week. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors for supporting this incredible work, without whom we couldn't have put together this global showcase. Thank you, and I wish you well for this event.
Fast-paced social, economic, and technology-driven change is redefining our world. And having a broad range of skills, such as creativity and problem-solving, has become far more important than being able to memorize information. To redefine how our children learn, and to empower them for the future, parents, teachers, and policymakers must stop overlooking a powerful part of the solution: learning through play. Play is the rocket fuel of child development. and there is a growing body of evidence to support that play is fundamental for children's positive growth and well-being over time. It is also an essential way to foster the skills required to thrive in today's world. The LEGO Foundation aims to build a future in which learning through play empowers children to become creative, engaged, lifelong learners. To do so, we work with a range of partners around the world to change the hearts and minds of all of those who influence children's lives through our programs, research and advocacy, so they can all embrace the transformative power of play. Examples of what we do include making sure that caregivers, practitioners and policymakers understand the importance of play, investigating, testing and scaling new ways to bring play-based learning into homes and schools, using play to help millions of the world's most vulnerable children cope with adverse childhood experiences and toxic stress, or conducting research with some of the world's leading research institutions. Please visit our website and follow us on social media to learn more.
Language connects us all. It's how friendships are formed, ideas are shared, and lessons are learned. Language is how we find understanding and express love. It's how we communicate our successes, both big and small. It lays the groundwork for learning and growth. And for an increasingly diverse student population, it can be the key to achievement in school and beyond. That's why Rosetta Stone Education is dedicated to language and literacy. We offer solutions designed to support teachers and their emergent bilingual students, recognizing and celebrating the knowledge, culture, and languages they bring to our classrooms. Our products are founded on the adaptive blended learning model for individual needs, continuous progress monitoring for better learning outcomes, and culturally responsive pedagogies for more inclusive classrooms. With solutions aligned with proficiency standards, we support language learning while exploring academic subject areas, paving the way to better outcomes. Because for all of us, language is everything.
Dear T4 community, we talk a lot about teachers these days, but we rarely listen to them. Therefore, I'm truly excited to join the T4 World Education Week to hear from teachers and school leaders all over the world how we can impact learning together. I'm particularly looking forward to the global showcase. 100 schools sharing their expertise and best practices, I believe, will be a huge motivation for other schools around the globe. I'm equally impressed by the T4 Solutions Challenge, its finalists and their solutions to real-world issues in education. This gives me hope that we can, together, turn around education globally. The Jacobs Foundation is a proud supporter of the T4 World Education Week because we share a vision to reimagine learning and education by bringing together the brightest people who understand how children learn. Let's do this together.
Okay, thank you everyone. Yeah, I enjoyed this, and again, thank you all for coming, and we're going to wrap up now. So thanks.